Alright guys, so I was taking a TGC course, Skepticism 101, and as is usually the case with these types of courses, they bring about ideas that I've already come to into contact with in the past. And what ends up happening is I create a synthesis in my mind, and an understanding, or a general pathway. Now, I've heard a lot of other people talk about this, but the fact is that certain people need religion. They have an intense proclivity towards religious fervor, religious experience. They generally seek it and they find it. So this is most evident in the process where you can find identical twins who have been separated at birth, leaning towards a specific proclivity. Now, in this case, we're discussing religion. Identical twins who have a proclivity towards religion tend to, be religious when they find them later in life, when they took a look at what happened to them, how they ended up working out. So these scientific studies kind of prove that certain people are just more apt, more prone towards finding religious structures to help them live their lives. Now, we can go from there, and we can start talking about these individuals who behave in a politically ideological manner in today's world. Now, you can see with the abundance of these people that people refer to as social justice warriors, that there are a lot of political extremists in today's environment. The Western world is producing political extremists at the rate that it used to produce religious extremists before the Reformation, before the secularization of society. Now, with the secularization of society, what you see was social alienation, because the cohesion that religion was initially able to bring about in society was it was a fix. It was a fix, that would be the best way to describe it. These people look for ways to find social acceptance. These people need social acceptance. They also have a more intense faculty for religious experiences. But I believe that those faculties are the same faculties which cause a person to seek out social cohesion, so more intense social cohesion amongst an in-group, out-group type situation. Now, this brings me to a discussion about political ideology, as where you were previously talking about. Now, these political ideologies that you find today in the modern world are extreme in their need for a unilateral and stricture of political ideology, that they can't exist outside of the tenets of the political ideology. You find that if a political ideology is so strict that if any of its tenets are questioned, that it falls apart, is similar to that of a religion, because religions also require that their beliefs and tenets are not questioned. It's just a sad fact about religion and political ideologies of the most dangerous type. Now, you find that political ideologies and religion are very similar in structure, to the point that I would describe non-religious political ideologies as simply secular religion. This is something that many people have brought up. It's just another format of religion, another phenotype within the religious strictures that we've been able to come up with, within the cultural dichotomy, or rather the cultural expression of a need for social cohesion. You can see this in the various ways that, for instance, the Lacey Green incident that happened just recently, where she immediately fell into an outgroup the moment she started questioning and talking with people who are considered the grand enemy of the religion of social justice. Now, what I'm talking about as far as this goes, and I am basically saying that these individuals seek out religion in normal societies, in pre-secularized, pre-Western society. They would have found religion and would have in fact been deeply entrenched into a religious structure, whereas now they attempt to seek social cohesion in a manner which is what is extraordinary in its proclivity towards dangerous political movements, because the type of social structures which downgrade individuals to pieces of the whole, as opposed to individuals themselves, are the exact sort of political ideology that these people who would have formerly been seeking out religion, tend to cling to. Now, of course, you have political religious ideologies such as Islam, which themselves have a political tenet and behave in the same manner as some of these social justice movements. But I think the difference there is that Islam itself is still a religion, but it's a political ideology former than a religion in order to teach people how to live their lives, including a socio-political structure, which is opposed to modern religion, which generally speaking, and I'm talking about in broad terms, Buddhism, modern Christianity, Taoism, a lot of these religious structures, they don't actually intend to tell an individual exactly how to structure their society, whereas these modern political ideologies do. But they're still religious in nature. That's how I see them. So, all of these people that you're seeing around you that are behaving in a manner that is consistent with religious ideology, but brought towards a political, are simply people who have been disincentivized, or rather disadvantaged by the current system. These people would have originally flocked towards a political or religious system, or rather a religious system, which would not have been quite so harsh on their minds. I think what I'm trying to say there is that they would have originally been more inclined to follow a religious structure that is more benign, because religion has found itself in many, many forms over thousands of years. But the ones that survive longest are, generally speaking, the ones that are the most benign, because you can convert people to those more easily. Because people, once inside of a system where their individuality is sublimated, actually seek individuality. At least I believe so. Now, these political ideologies that we're seeing today are extroverted in the same manner that political Islam is, which is why I want to group political Islam in with the same category of modern secularist religion that I've been describing. Of course, that's difficult to actually do, because Islam is a religion, no matter how you cut it. But it's certainly capable of being seen in that light, because there really is no difference. With the exception of God, what is the difference between political Islam and the way that social justice warriors behave? They are basically neo-communists. There is no difference. So, they're very dangerous too, in the same way that Islam is, because they tend to radicalize quickly. They tend to radicalize quickly and begin to force their social tenets upon those that are outside of it. You have an in-group, out-group dichotomy within these situations. And similar to religion, religious strictures, they seek to proselytize people. However, the difference is that these people, and including political Islam, tend to have an external reality that they have to force upon others, whereas religions generally tend to speak towards, modern religion tends to speak towards the individual in a stoic manner. It looks for self-reflection, it looks for self-improvement. That's important. That's important to talk about. That's important to understand. Now, these self-reflecting ideologies tend to lead towards greater good. They tend to lead towards liberalism. When you find Martin Luther reforming the modern Christian religion as a whole, you find that what ended up happening is that the Catholic religion, which was formerly a religious political structure, turned into a more liberal structure, became a more liberal structure. And that's because the teachings of the Protestant Reformation inevitably led towards people understanding that they themselves could have a personal relationship with God. It led towards individualism rather than collectivism. As before, they had to go to a priest and everybody had to go listen to him in order to gain the teachings of God. Now an individual could learn to read and go and read the Bible, which was actually the driving force behind a lot of people learning to read, as it turns out. I think what I'm getting at is that though religious ideologies can be dangerous in and of themselves, I find that political ideologies, these secular religions, are much more dangerous because, as I said, they're extroverted in the same way that political Islam is, rather than introverted in the same way that modern Christianity tends to be. modern Buddhism tends to be. These religions focus on the self, to improve the self. That is the main goal of religion in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Post, of course, post-Israel going in and conquering so many people. Because you tend to notice that Israel doesn't actually tend to attempt to bother to conquer people outside of its chosen land. In the Bible, at least that's how I understand it. Maybe that's off the topic. Perhaps I need to look into that more. But what I'm saying is that everybody needs to take a look at these ideologies and recognize that these people could have used religion, could have used those benign formats of social cohesion. It would have helped them. It would have made them better people. Instead, you have these political ideologies which are prone toward radicalism, which end up focusing so hard on the outgroup in order to keep them within that they end up behaving, as I said, like a extremist religion, such as political Islam. People need religion, they seek it out wherever they can. I don't think that it's fair to have taken religion away from these people. I myself consider myself an agnostic Christian. That is to say that I believe in central Christian tenets, central Christian morals. I even have an idea in my head that maybe Christ did save us all. But what I certainly don't believe is that I need to go out and change everybody else's life because of some belief I have. I might even cut that part out because I don't want it tainting what I'm saying here. People probably need religion. People probably need it. I mean, I don't know how you can sit there and say they don't when you have people behaving like this. You have people behaving in a way that is so alienated from the social norms that it's clear that they need something in their life to hold on to. I'd say that the most important thing to take away from this is that religion in of itself is not a bad thing. In fact, when you take away their religion of these people, you might end up with something a lot worse. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. You're going to see a lot of videos like this because it ends up producing a stream of consciousness, these ideas that I have. And I refuse to create scripts for the time being, simply because I think that it's more fun to just throw ideas at the wall and speak what I believe as the time goes through, what I'm thinking in my mind as we go through and have these discussions. It's certainly more entertaining because a scripted video, it tends to lend itself towards, I think it lends itself towards, I don't know how to describe it. It's not real. People have put themselves out there in a way that they've made sure to rhetorically analyze what they're saying so that they preconceive of the arguments that can be made against them. I want arguments being made against me so that I can sit there and say yes or no depending upon that. If you preclude every conversation, every argument before it can be had, you create a situation where there can be no argument had. Because the only arguments that can have be so structural, I don't know how to describe it. But you see this in individuals such as Sargon. They're wonderful at what they do. But they have to guard themselves against what people are saying to them. Because people will sit there and try to nick and pick at every little thing they're saying. And I want to avoid that by letting it all out. I could be wrong about everything I've said. You're the one who gets to decide. You get to bring it up. You get to discuss it. Thanks, guys, for watching it. We'll see you next time.